Hi, this is Jacob. It's actually my first time holding a masterclass, so I'm just a bit nervous. Therefore, I'll ask you to excuse my French if I make any mistakes during this masterclass, okay? So today I'm going to be mostly speaking English. I hope this will not cause you any problems, but if you have a hard time understanding me, then you can simply read the subtitles for this video and get the meaning of what's being said here, okay? So I hope you're all feeling good, guys. If you're ready, then let's get started. So guys, times are changing really fast. Nowadays, like everyone's trying to learn English, aren't they? Whether we like it or not, the whole world is switching to English. Most news, updates, technologies, discoveries, they all come out in English first and then get translated into other languages like Uzbek, right? Even traditional fields now expect you to be able to communicate at least on simple topics in English. So today, knowing English is kind of becoming almost as necessary as knowing our native language, like Uzbek, right? But the problem is, a lot of people think you have to be born talented and God-gifted to learn a language. I completely disagree with this belief because, that's simply not true. I personally wasn't born talented, and yet today I am fluent in 3 languages and I can read in 1 more language, which is Korean, okay? Of course, as you expect of me, I am fluent in Uzbek. I can speak Uzbek fluently because, I was born in Uzbekistan and then I was raised by people who mostly speak Uzbek, and then I went to a school where the main language of instruction was Uzbek and actually has remained the same. So my whole life I was surrounded by the culture of Uzbek language, okay? I was surrounded by people who speak Uzbek. So of course I am fluent in this language. And my second language is Russian. I can speak Russian fluently. I learned it from my parents who used to speak Russian when we were children, and I improved it when I was in Russia. So as you may understand by now, I've never learned the grammar of Russian or any vocabulary in Russian to learn to speak in Russian, okay? All I did was just listen to my parents speak Russian and then repeat after them, like word by word. I just imitated my parents speaking Russian, okay? So this was the way I learned this language and I improved it, okay? And my next language, the third one, right, is English. As you can see yourselves, I can speak English pretty well. Yeah, I am fluent in it. And the last one, the last language, is Korean. Well, unfortunately, I can't speak Korean, but I can definitely read in it, okay? I can't remember the exact year, but I guess it was in 2020 or in 2019. Yes, I guess it was in 2020 when I just started to learn the basics of Korean grammar. I was taught by my sister who lived in Korea for a few years, improved her Korean, passed her high-level Korean language exams and got her certifications there. I believe her level of proficiency in Korean is the highest, like the 6th GIP, if you know what that is. Yeah, she taught me the basics of Korean grammar, the alphabet, of course, and the rules of how to read in Korean. But let's get back to the reason we're all here today, okay? Look, you're all here to learn some techniques on how to learn a language the fastest possible way, right? But the truth is, I don't need to teach you how to learn languages because you already know yourselves. Just think about it. Somehow you managed to learn to speak Uzbek, right? You didn't need the grammar of Uzbek to learn to speak Uzbek. You definitely didn't learn lists of vocabulary to understand people, to understand others, and yet you learned the language and became fluent in it. And the question is, how? I mean, if I wasn't born talented, take me as an example, okay? If I wasn't born talented, then how the heck was I able to learn those 3 languages and became fluent in them, right? How did I manage to develop this language learning related skills, this so-called talent in me? Actually, there is a good saying that goes like this. The one with no talent, but with great determination, persistence, and consistency always beats the one who is highly talented, but also lazy. So, in this case, when it comes to learning languages, talent doesn't matter that much, like at all. I mean, all that matters is how determined and persistent you are to achieve whatever goals you have. So if you are consistent and persistent enough not to quit, then eventually you will succeed. So learning languages isn't that difficult, especially if you join my courses. So answering those questions, one of which is, how did I learn those languages, right? To learn a language, you simply need to live it. Like literally, you have to live the language to learn it, okay? Because it's a cultural thing. It's not about the grammar. It's not about the vocabulary. It's about the culture of that language you're trying to learn, okay? Look, English is different from Russian. Russian is different from Korean. Korean sometimes may seem similar to Uzbek, and yet they are two completely different languages. Why? Because the culture is different. The way we speak and express ourselves and our ideas is different from how people, for example, in English-speaking countries, express themselves and their ideas. Because the cultures are not the same. When the culture is different, the way you speak is also different. And you have to understand this as language learners, okay? So to learn a language, you have to immerse yourself in the culture of that language. That is the only fastest possible way to learn any languages. And another problem is the majority of learners think you have to start with grammar first to learn a language. Bullshit. Let me ask you this. Which one of you learned Uzbek through grammar first? Who learned Russian as their first language through grammar first? No one. Not a single person. You learned to speak Uzbek because you lived in that environment. You were raised in it and you grew up surrounded by that environment, by that culture, okay? So that's exactly why today you speak Uzbek naturally and fluently. So why should English be any different when it comes to learning languages? In fact, you only started learning how to read and write after you had already learned to speak, usually in first grade, which is 4 or 5 years after you started using the language, right? So you see the point now. It's the same with English speakers, same with Russians, even the same with the Chinese. You can't truly learn a language through grammar alone. You can only learn a language by living it, by experiencing the culture behind that language. That's the only way to go, the natural way. How had people learned languages before the grammar existed like a subject? Yes, they'd been learning languages by exploring the culture of that language, by living in that culture. For example, let's say you don't know any English right now. But if you go to America, how long do you think it would take you to learn English without taking any classes? If you live among native speakers and practice your English a lot, then in 3 to 6 months, you could be speaking like a native, even without taking any English classes. That's exactly why so many adults, even in their 40s or 50s, learn a new language easily within a year or two when they move to a foreign country. But to live in the culture of that language, you don't have to go abroad if you can't afford it. You can create that environment in your own room. For example, switch the language of all your devices to English and start spending at least 5 to 8 hours listening to native speakers and repeating after them. So, to learn English, you have to immerse yourself in the culture of English by watching and listening to it as much as possible and repeating after natives. And also you have to understand that there are levels of listening comprehension. Of course, at the beginning it will be really hard to understand natives, but Your goal shouldn't be understand them at all. First, you need to get used to the sound of English, and then you should learn to recognize individual words in sentences, and only after that will you begin to understand native speakers. So at the beginning, when you just start, do not get frustrated or disappointed at yourself just because you do not understand the content you watch or listen to. It will get easier, but you have to practice, and practice a lot, keeping consistency. Okay, so now I have another question. What do you think is the fastest and most interesting way to learn anything? So this time, not just languages, but anything. And the answer is practice. Whatever subject it is, biology, chemistry, astronomy, mathematics, or languages, everything is learned through practice first. We learn best by doing. For example, do you think Ibn Sina, Avicenna, right, just sat down and imagined how the human body looks inside? The heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys? No. He opened up real human bodies, studied them, and then created his own theories. You see, first comes practice, and then theories. He had to open up those bodies to see what's hidden inside human body. Same with Al-Biruni, Al-Farghani, Mirza Ulugh. They didn't just sit and say, let's invent mathematics. It wasn't the case, but instead, they observed, measured, analyzed, and after that, only after that, mathematics was born as a subject. It's always the same. First practice, then theories. I'll give you another simple example. Imagine you want to learn to ride a bike, right? That's a classic example. If I give you 6 months of theory lessons and you actually ride a bike once or twice during this time, in 6 months, do you think you'll be able to ride a bike well after 6 months of just theory lessons? The answer is obvious. Of course not. No way, right? But if you start practicing riding a bike right away, in just 2 or 3 days, you'll be riding a bike like a pro, like a professional biker. So it's the same with learning languages. You have to practice the language you're trying to learn. You don't have to sit down and study all those boring grammar rules all day long. Instead, what you should be doing is practicing your spoken English, listening and speaking all day long, not just learning those boring grammar rules all day long, okay? That's how you improve your learning skills or language learning skills, okay? So, to sum it all up in one sentence, just remember, okay? Just remember. First comes practice, then theories, always, period. So that's it for today. I hope you found this masterclass helpful. So, see you soon. By the way, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, okay? Bye for now. See you soon.